Welcome to the podcast Life After Addiction and Indictment. I'm your host, Steve Cloward, and I spent most of the last decade and well over $100,000 on coaches, consultants, masterminds, and events trying to figure out how to reclaim my life again. On this podcast, I'm going to share the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the hacks that allowed me to forgive myself so that I could reclaim my life again. I'll be interviewing experts in mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, branding, and so much more. I'm glad you're here. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
Let's go! This is Life After Addiction and Indictment.
Welcome back to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Today I've got a show with an incredible guest who has an incredible background that's really going to be able to provide a lot of information and knowledge, specifically with, how the world has evolved and changed and the impact that AI is having on the world. This gentleman has a vast experience. Most people probably wouldn't believe it when I read it. I was shocked. I do believe it, obviously, but 15 years of experience in kind of that arena where people like me, and I think probably the masses, think that this is just, something over the last year or two. But I want to welcome to the show today, Manuj Aggarwal. How you doing, Manuj?
Good. Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It shows that, you're a global thought leader who has been in AI, like I mentioned, for 15 years. And, you've served clients, some of the biggest companies out there, your Microsofts, IBMs. And, you've done a ton of things. You also, had mentions from the likes of past presidents, Bill Gates. And it's just quite the biography of the things that I've researched and read about you. So why don't you start off telling us a little bit about how you grew up and, what got you into, I guess, what your education is, and then kind of how things evolved and your experience in business.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I started off, it was back in India, not as glamorous or as sort of worth mentioning. Basically, I started as a factory worker, making $2 a day. And it was, yes, a day. Yeah.
It's a day, folks, not an hour.
Yeah. So it was quite tough life. That sort of experience prompted me to figure out what is out there, how to improve life, how to increase your value. And increasing your value led me to finding a skill that was going to be in demand, that is going to create more value. And during that quest of finding that skill, I found technology, programming, and I just fell in love with that. So my education is not very stellar. Like, I have a bachelor's degree in business and I have a diploma in computer science, but most of what I've learned is pretty much on the job. And what helped me get my career to this point was generally just finding something that I really enjoyed, and also not staying at one level, always looking to improve, to master that art of building technology, and also looking at what else is new out there, what is the new latest cutting edge technology. And using that to solve some big challenges in healthcare, in education, in various industries. And that is not only fun, but it impacts a lot of people in a direct way, help improve their lives and whatnot. So that has been quite a bit of fun, very satisfying, very fulfilling. And also it gets a lot of accolades from well-known people like Obama, like Bill Gates.
Wow, that's fascinating. I think that's such a great lesson for people listening to understand is, putting thought into, number one, what could make a difference? And then, what is it that you enjoy? And you found both, it sounds like. So as you got into, the tech space, where did you start out? I mean, what were some of the things that, companies you worked for, or how did that process take place?
Yeah. So the very first company after I, got my diploma was a small software engineering company in Delhi, in India. And they were, sort of like providing software services to small businesses, local businesses, building their accounting systems or what have you. And then I got it. I came over to Canada, and that was the .com boom time. It was 1999 .com boom, and I got a job very quickly, like within a couple of months of landing in Canada. And
Oh,
that
wow.
was a e-commerce company, which was almost like a predecessor to Amazon. What they were trying to do is they were trying to build a virtual mall where you can have multiple people selling goods and multiple people transacting B2B. So those were the kind of things they were doing. But unfortunately, .com bust happened around that time, and that company sort of had to be liquidated. And then I found myself looking for a job. And then I joined another startup, and then September 11th happened. So this startup was in medical science, and they were actually located in New York. So when September 11th happened, obviously they lost a bunch of money. They were out of business. So I had these experiences of losing, a series of jobs when I started my career in North America. And that led me to believe that, this job security thing is not a real thing, no matter where you are, whether you are in India or in North America. So which sort of forced me into entrepreneurship, and I started my consulting company back in 2001. So I was doing exactly the same thing, but now instead of working for one employer, I was working with multiple companies, helping them build their technology, bring the products to market. So all of those things were sort of led me to where I am. And then after working with a lot of startups, got an opportunity to work with companies like Microsoft and Pearson Education, where I saw how these large corporations, they make money, how they continue to grow. So I had a very sort of a good all-round experience working with smaller companies, working with larger companies, different industries, different domains. And so that experience was like priceless, like really good experience in from multiple angles.
That's awesome. So when you started your company, were you then basically contracted by some of these bigger companies as based on the services you could provide them?
Yes, exactly. And in many cases, it was also like, obviously, as a small company, it's almost impossible to work with company like Microsoft. So also you have to go through some intermediaries, and then, you get to work with some of these projects. So it's a big convoluted jungle you have to get used to.
I can imagine. I can imagine the red tape and even probably politics involved a little bit and all those kind of things. But it sounds like those other experiences though, and based on the things that I've learned through my life is everything seems to have a purpose, and everything's from our past, whether it's failures or just the things that take place, they help us to get us to the point that we hopefully want to go. But it may not be the direct path you were hoping or thinking, but it seems like there's always just these stepping stones that help you. And if you learn that if you're doing something maybe that you don't love, or have experience like you where a couple of companies go out of business for different reasons, those were just things that were going to benefit you down the road. And I think
Exactly.
sometimes so many people get caught up, it would be so easy for you to have taken bought into the mindset of poor me, being a victim after 9/11 company goes out of business or whatever. But that's one thing that I read, that obviously you definitely understand and utilize is mindset. How did you learn those things, or what would you share with the audience that would really, that have helped you, but that also help those who maybe are struggling?
Mindset is always about like, when you grow up in a third world country, it's all about survival. It's all about like utilizing minimal resources at your disposal. So it's not ever that you have like a safety net. You always are trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to the next level? Then the other aspect is like, being a programmer, you always get into the habit of finding bugs in your code, because the code, when you write, like source code, when you write a program, it never works the first time around. So you have to say, okay, let me run it once and then see, okay, there's a mistake here. Let's run it again. Oh, okay, there's another mistake here. So doing that over and over and over again, thousands of times, the default mindset becomes that things are not going to actually work the first time around. And you have to debug it, and you have to like figure out, okay, what's the next move, tweak it here, tweak it there, and finally starts to work. And so if you adopt that mindset, I mean, that's how you can figure out what exactly you want to achieve, because that is another problem that most people face. They don't know exactly what they want out of life. They just say, oh, I want to be rich, I want to be successful. It's like very basic idea about what their future looks like, not very detailed, not very vivid. So once you get down to that level of detail, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want to experience, and then just treat life as a source code program that you need to debug and say, okay,
That's
oh,
awesome.
September 11th happened, oh, big bug, now let's figure out another way to get around it. And yeah, I mean, it's just a hit and trial. You continue to do that, and you get to, even if you don't get to the final vision, you actually head in that direction. And as you
Yeah,
said, sometimes you find even a bigger vision is available to you.
that is, I mean, I love that perspective. I've never heard it like that, but that just really simplifies it in a way, because it's like you just expect that's part of the process.
Yeah.
And why should we think life's not any different than code? I mean,
Exactly.
life's just as more difficult probably than that. So it's just part of it. So if we just understand and own that, then you get those bumps or those trials, you're not gonna find yourself buying into these stories that we fight in our minds and taking yourself the wrong way. Wow, that's to me, that's a very powerful example that anybody should be able to grab onto and just remember. I was reading some things about you, and one of the things that you mentioned is it's important to travel. Mm-hmm. Why is that important?
Okay, so this is very much related to the previous answer, right? So what happens is that when we grow up in one physical location and we don't know what the world looks like, we tend to start thinking that our thinking is the only way to solve problems. But as humanity, we have, we are spread all over the world, like all the continents we have occupied now. But the fact is that even though we may come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different countries, at the basic level, we face similar problems. It's about, once the basic needs are met, like housing and food and water, then it's about realizing your full potential, being creative, taking care of your family, your community, similar problems. But the fact is, when you go and outside of your physical location where you are, where you grew up, you will notice that people have solved those problems in many different ways. And they have solved it at different scales, different materials, different methodologies. And so when you travel, your mind starts to open up, your mind starts to expand, and you can pick up a lot of these insights and say, oh, this is how they solved the problem in Spain, and they have never tried it in North America. What happens if I take that solution and apply it in North America? You'll find that most of the time it actually really works, and you are seen as an innovator, not like a copycat, because nobody actually thought of cross-pollinating it. And and that's the whole thing. Once you have these insights, your tool chest to debug your life becomes larger. Let's say if you build, if you're into woodworking and you are making a closet, if you only have a couple of tools in your tool chest, it's going to take a long time. But if you have a huge tool chest of saws and hammers and planers and all of that stuff, it will take you less amount of time to get there, right? So that's how I look at travel.
I think that's fantastic. So how much, I mean, have you done a lot of traveling in your life, or is that just something that had you ever heard that from anybody like mentors or anyone, or did you kind of just learn that as you did travel?
So I
I
haven't
guess I'm saying,
traveled.
was it
Yeah,
intentional or did
yeah, yeah.
did it just
I
kind
have
of evolve?
See, I have traveled not enough. Like I've visited like 20, 25 countries so far, but I don't think that's enough. So the biggest travel obviously was immigrating from India to North America, which was a big culture shock, right?
Yeah.
I spoke English, relatively well, but I couldn't understand some of the nuances of how people speak here. The inside jokes and the facial expressions. I had to learn all of that. So I was like fascinated by, it's the same language but spoken very differently. The meanings of some certain words are very different. And so then that was a big experience. And then I started, when I started working with Microsoft, for example, I traveled to the US, and I found there was quite a big cultural shift from within Canada and US. And that was even more surprising because from the outside you always assume, oh, North America, Canada, and US are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So and then I got an opportunity to travel to Europe and other countries, and that was such an organic experience. Just noticing people, noticing how they behave, experiencing different cuisines, experiencing different languages, and those insights started to sort of build upon inside my head. And it was not in real time I realized that, hey, travel could be very important. It's a few years later I realized that since I have traveled, my mind thinks a little slightly differently. And when I started talking to other people who have traveled, they shared that experience. So I said, oh, okay, so now I see, where all these thoughts are coming from, because I traveled to this place and blah blah blah. And when others corroborated it, they validated the fact that travel expands your mind. Then I was able to put together. I mean, just think about it. Like, if you look at our history in North America, we have, you know, mainstream history that we talk about is about 300 years old, even though humanity's history here in North America is like probably 10, 15,000 years old, right? But
Yeah.
most of that is not talked about. But if you go to a country like, somewhere like Italy, they have 3,000, 4,000 years of history. And just going into a museum and sort of, starting from like 500 BC to present time, your mind is just exploding with how, people used to live, how they solved the problem, how they fought the wars, all of that stuff. And that's an invaluable experience, even though you may have learned history in your classroom. But when you witness all these artifacts, these stories in an experiential way in front of your eyes, that's a total game changer, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Wow. So let's talk about AI. So, 15 years of experience. What were you doing, 14, 15 years ago that, were exposing you to that?
As I said, like, my goal always is to look for technologies or projects or work which are using the latest and greatest technologies, because that keeps you on your toes. It forces you to learn new things.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, I always look for projects which have direct impact on people. So education, healthcare, these are areas where, when you build the technology, it directly impacts students, teachers, patients, doctors. So back in 2007 or around that time, we embarked on a project to create a personalized curriculum for students in a classroom environment. And that used the AI to give each student in a classroom their own personal curriculum. So if somebody is more advanced in a particular topic, they could speed up things and finish that class earlier. If they need more help, then the AI system provides them a little more material to brush up on their skills and catch up to the rest of the students.
Are you tired of paying exorbitant monthly fees for your in-home entertainment? Do you wish there was a way to bring quality and affordable entertainment right into your household without a monthly subscription? Well, look no further. Introducing the VC Box Android TV Stream Box. Since 2020, VCBox has been enriching people's lives all over the world, and now it's coming to North America. Say goodbye to scattered subscriptions and countless apps. We've got all your streaming in one place. This is the best fully loaded Android TV box provider in North America. Our user-friendly interface makes navigation a breeze, and with the voice remote featuring Google Assistant, finding your entertainment has never been easier. The VCBox V2 Pro Android box is the epitome of convenience. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your favorite shows and movies with just a few simple voice commands. And the best part, no monthly subscriptions. That's right, you heard it correctly. Say goodbye to those pesky recurring fees and hello to endless entertainment. Join the VCBox revolution and elevate your entertainment experience. Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity. Visit our website and order your VCBox now. Bring home the VCBox today and bring endless joy and excitement to your household. VCBox, unleash the power of entertainment.
That's fascinating. So what was taking place for the AI to understand where the different students were at?
Yes. So it's a mixture of, looking at their historical data. It's a mixture of how they are doing on their tests. So the way that it worked at that time, now, obviously, if we had to build it from the ground up, the approach will be different. Back then, it was like when you start off, each student starts off the same, just like any other regular curriculum. But as the system starts to learn about the capability of the students based on their performance, based on the how fast they complete a chapter, based on their historical data, their previous test scores, then it starts to make very educated and accurate guesses about, okay, what should this student learn next. And that is where, if a student is considered advanced in a particular topic, then they can skip ahead, or they are given a less amount of material to read because they are already proficient in that topic.
Interesting. Wow. So it's evolved a lot since she started back then, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what do you do for other companies with your knowledge of AI and stuff? Are there certain things that there are companies that you worked with that you've helped implement AI that's having benefits for their companies? And are you still focused on specific spaces, healthcare, things like that, or is it just?
No. So we are a AI consulting company, right? So we basically talk to our clients and say, okay, tell us what is the objective you are trying to reach. What will be the dream scenario? What will be the success criteria? And then based on that, and in some cases, people don't even know. They just know, okay, AI is very powerful and we want to implement it in our company. We don't know what exactly we want to do. So we work with them, understand their business. We find areas in their business, whether that's sales, marketing, operations, whatever. And we can say, okay, this is one area where we can identify that you have a low-hanging fruit. So if we automate this process, you may be able to save a ton of money, or you may be able to make a lot of money by opening up new revenue streams, or you may be able to save a lot of time, or make life better for your employees, or whatever that success criteria looks like. And then once we have an agreement with the client, then we go to work and do the research. If we need to hire engineers, we have standing teams of engineers, but sometimes there is a specialized skill that we need to hire for. So we do all that groundwork to build these technologies and deploy them for the clients.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like when it comes to a couple different topics, not only business, but with just things that are being more, I guess, mainstream than they used to be. And I'm speaking of this, particularly meditation. What does meditation and AI have in common?
So see, meditation is basically the simplest definition I can provide is being able to read your own thoughts. So we generally 99.99% of the population, they go around about their life having a lot of these stories just on auto repeat in their head. And it's estimated that most human beings have about 50 to 60,000 thoughts every day, and 90% of those thoughts are negative thoughts. And so when you have that much negative drama going on in your head, the outcomes, the actions you take, and the outcomes you experience in life are also negative. But when you meditate, your conscious mind can start to become an observer of these thoughts. And once you start to observe them, you can start to flip them around for a positive thought. And that's the key. That's the key sort of differentiator that you feel in your life and professional life, personal life, once you start to meditate. Now that is an exercise that takes time, that you have to dedicate not much more than 20 30 minutes a day. But when I have talked to thousands of people and talked about benefits of meditation, most frequent answer I get is, I don't have time, or my mind is not quiet enough, I don't think I'll be able to do it. Then I started thinking, okay, how can we help people experience meditation without, like, while overcoming these objections. So then I realized that artificial intelligence is basically a continuum of human mind, how we think, and it can be a two-way street where AI can impact the mind to think certain ways. So I generally, so I have done a lot of extensive work in this area, like combining artificial intelligence with neuroscience and all of that. But to demonstrate the point, I can give you and your audience a little exercise. So
Perfect.
let's say you want to achieve something in the next 30 days. So it could be like you want to make it to a business meeting, maybe close a small, some, like, not a life-changing event, but something small. Maybe
Okay.
you want to go to a getaway picnic with your family, whatever it is. Generally, when we talk to people about these things, they have a vague idea. Once again, they don't have a clear idea on how exactly it is going to turn out and what they want to get out of this experience. But with AI, for example, I recommend people go to ChatGPT if they haven't used it, sign up for an absolute free account, and then describe this scenario and tell AI that you are 40 years old, you have two kids, you live in New York, you drive this kind of car, you want to take a trip to this suburb in the next 2 weeks with your family, and describe a little bit about that trip. And then ask the AI to write you a detailed 2,000-word story about how it went. Assume it has already happened. Assume
That's awesome.
that you've already experienced it, and then ask it to describe the people, the places, the games you played, all of that, and then read it to yourself every day for the next 7 to 10 days. And what you feel, what you visualize, is exactly what meditation looks like. Okay, because you have now so much clarity, so much vividness about that experience, and your mind already thinks it has already happened. So in general, when people try it, a lot of people will actually start to experience all of that in real life. It'll actually start
Oh,
to
no
happen.
doubt.
Yeah.
That's man, that's manifesting on steroids. That is
Yeah.
killer. I mean,
Yes.
I'm gonna do that myself, because
Yeah.
I mean, I meditate, but it's still difficult, But and I've done things that, certain routines daily, and said things, daily, and there's no doubt about it. But that takes it to a
Yeah.
whole new level.
Yeah.
That'll make a huge impact. I mean,
Yeah.
man, you're dropping all sorts of golden nuggets today. Appreciate
Mhm.
that. Well, I'm going to assume that one of the last questions I had may tie into something like that. What's the fastest way for anybody listening, the sure shot way for them to become a millionaire?
Sure. Well, so there is a methodology in Japanese culture. It's called ikigai. Okay,
Okay.
ikigai means your purpose for living. So what it does is it has 4 quadrants, and basically what you need to do is you need to uh, figure out what those 4 quadrants are for you in your life. So the first quadrant is what do you love to do?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you really love to do? The next quadrant is, what does the world need right now? What The third quadrant is, what can you be paid for? And the fourth quadrant is, what are you good at? And once you list your interests, your skill sets, and you categorize into these four categories, you find that there is going to be few things, two or three things, that overlap all of these things, right?
Yeah.
So I love to program. The world needs technology, and I can be paid for it. People are looking for that, and then I'm good at it because I enjoyed it. So when you take that intersection and then you say, okay, this is my purpose of life, right? And then you pursue it with all your passion, all your heart. Whether you have a good day, bad day, you just continue going deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And that gets rewarded in so many ways that you cannot even imagine. So that's one thing, like find your purpose. Second thing is, again, $1 million is a misnomer. Millionaire is a misnomer. Find what success means to you, because for
Yeah.
some people, it's like retiring their parents. For some other people, it could be sending their kids to college. For some other people, it could be traveling the world. And in many cases, these experiences are much more meaningful than $1 million,
I'll
and
say.
may it actually cost much less than $1 million. So instead of $1 million, I always recommend, okay, let's get clarity on what exactly you want to do
Wow.
with that $1 million, and then you start working towards that using your ikigai, or using techniques like what I just shared with you, or meditation, or all of these things combined. And yeah, and it's not very difficult to get to where you want to go. And then the last thing I say is, develop communication skills, develop your skills to build relationships, because even if you are the world's most skillful, most talented person, if you don't know how to communicate, if you don't know how to build those relationships, you're not going to get too far. So
That's so true. I always have said relationships probably one of the most important things we need in life.
yeah,
It's amazing what relationships can do. I mean, 'cause you don't know
absolutely.
who that person is that might know that person that maybe that person that can really impact what you're trying to accomplish. Or,
Yes.
wow,
Exactly. Yeah.
phenomenal. And you are a wealth of knowledge, and I love the way that you articulate stuff, because it just is so plain and easy to understand. And I know that a lot of people that are out there struggling, particularly whether it's addicts or people coming out of prison or whatever, that have wanted to chase their dream, but fears held them back, lack of confidence, whatever. I mean, some of the things that you shared today, to me, ought to make it so much easier for people to understand there are ways to get there so much easier than it used to be, with just some of the things you've shared.
Well, what I've learned is people like complex. If you give them very simple stuff, they don't believe it. They're like, no, it's got to be more tough than that.
Yeah.
And I guess the benefit or fluke of luck or what have you, I had to settle with simple methods, because I didn't have a lot of room for complexity. I didn't have a lot of
You don't
room
have the
for
resources or what?
yeah,
Of
exactly. So
course,
you have
keep it
so you
simple,
have
but still get the
exactly.
result.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
cool. Wow.
Mhm.
Man, that's awesome. Do you get back to India very often?
I try to, not as often as I would like, but I try to.
That's cool. Do you mind me asking what part? I have a bunch of guys over there that I work with.
Yeah. I grew up in Punjab, northern part of India.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fascinating. I really have appreciated this. Do you have any, anything that you'd just like to share, with the audience in particular that has, blessed your life?
Yeah. Well, as I said, like the key thing is getting clarity on where you want to go, building up your communication skills, building relationships. One thing I will say about people trying to find success in their life, Right now, it's a very, very transformative time in human history. A
Amen.
lot of big technologies are coming together, specifically AI. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of misinformation about AI, but I'll give you a few statistics. Okay. IBM CEO has said that AI is going to add $10 trillion to the world economy by 2030. So that is 10 trillion by in 7 years. Currently, the world economy is $96 trillion. Okay.
Wow.
So that means
10%.
more than 10% will be added by AI in the next 7 years. So if you think that internet, when the internet came along, that technology wave, that probably added maybe $100 billion in the first 7 years.
Jeez.
The smartphone came along, maybe it added like 500 billion or something like that. So now you can imagine the opportunity that people have in front of them. And so if you want to change your life, your future generation's life, get on this and then ride that wave. So that's the message I would like to share for sure.
Okay, well, we're not going to leave there because now you got me thinking, because I've been meant to address this. The people that, I mean, well, let's talk a little bit about people that have fear of AI. And often people think replacing so many jobs. Well, if it is going to replace so many jobs, you're not going to inject $10 trillion into the world market, so there's going to be a balance, obviously.
See, what happens is that we humans have very limited imagination. Okay,
Yes.
so we don't realize that what we call job today may not be a job for tomorrow, or what we don't even perceive to be a job today may be a very, very high paying job tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So, for example, before the internet came along, there was no such thing as a web developer.
Yeah.
Right? Before the yeah, before the smartphone came along, there was no such thing as an app developer.
Apps. Yeah.
Before the automobile came along, there was no such thing as an auto mechanic, right?
Yep.
So the idea is that technologies, they are here to transform the world, and it's not about how we are doing the work today. It's about what opportunities it will open up tomorrow. So the way that I believe things will unfold is machines will do most of the thinking from now on, because they can think faster, they can think deeper. Now, humans have been for the entire part of our evolution, we have always valued IQ, our intelligence, because intelligent people can find solutions, we can solve problems. But moving forward, if the machine is if machines have like 1,000 IQ, there's no way to compete with that. So what is left is our emotional side, our ability to connect with others, our ability to empathize with others, listen to others. So so those kind of jobs will become more powerful. They will become more valuable. They will become more meaningful. And I'll give you examples of this in real history. So there was a period of 300 years called Renaissance period in Europe, where artists and musicians and painters, they were at the top of the society. They used to be paid the highest money, right? So now you can imagine that these kind of jobs will start to become more valuable. If you look in the present today, look at therapists, for example. Therapists are solving a big problem of mental health. Mental health is a huge issue. But what does a therapist do? They listen. That's it. Exactly. They just listen, right? Yeah. And they are paid like hundreds of dollars an hour. And today you can go to websites like Fiverr, and you can find people who will just say, I'll pay me $100 and I'll just listen to you, because people are lonely these days. So how the world is going to transform is not known at this point. What will people value in the future as the AI takes over is not known at this time. But I can tell you definitely there is going to be much more equalized world. It'll be much more, sort of world where everybody has opportunity, and it will be a much better world than what we have today.
I actually agree 100% with that. I just really hadn't framed it in that perspective, but I think that's where we're headed because, yeah. So that's, that's a great thing. Do you think there's any, if I'm being honest, there's some concerns I do have regarding AI, as far as how far they go with certain things like implementing things in the human. I think that's where most people typically go first, aside with what you just talked about. But I mean, come on, if you can not have a job, you're afraid of being replaced, and focus on a skill set and the things you talked about earlier in the podcast where you find something you enjoy. Because I mean, your passion and happiness exudes through the monitor. I mean, because you have enjoyed everything you've been doing for, how many decades now. And it gets to the point where it's not like working. It's not like doing work, and if you can find that passion and have a skill set, you're going to get paid based on the value of that skill set and the need. And it makes life so much different and better.
Exactly. And people have a misconception that it has to be like really mainstream skill set. I mean, I know a person or a bunch of people, they do weird things. Like, there's one guy, he specializes in weaving baskets underwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, think about like, and then,
that was always a joke as a kid, what class are you taking? Oh, I got underwater basket weaving. That was always just kind of an inside joke, but they're real.
Yeah. There are teenagers doing like, again, things which are outside the realm of imagination. There is this guy, Mr. Beast. He's literally a billionaire, just doing things which, every teenager will love to do. So the idea is to, just find that and get really good at it. You can't just like, wing it. You can't just say half-ass it, but find something you can go deeper into, no matter how weird it is, and stay the course. Yeah.
That's so cool. And man, people don't understand just how much easier it is in today's world with technology. I mean, you look at some of these crazy things like you're talking about, some of these crazy ass people and what they're doing on their YouTube channels that have millions of people following them. They're monetizing the hell out of it. It's just making money. So so there's just so many ways. So, if you're listening and you're struggling and man, you just got to go for it. But I think the biggest thing you've said too is just getting clear, find that outcome you want and then work backwards.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah. Well, man, this is fantastic. Where can people find you at?
Yeah, just look me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. And just let me know that you heard me on this podcast and what are you trying to do? How can we help you?
Oh, that's great. Well, I'll have all that information in the show notes. And just appreciate your time. This has been a great one. And
absolutely,
those of you listening, man, you've got to go back and re-listen because there's some serious golden nuggets in this episode. So go run back through it and take a couple of notes and implement a couple of the things. And I just, from my experience, I'm saying I guarantee you'll get different results in your life. If you do the work,
And do let me know what results you got.
That'll be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, thanks again. And we'll keep in touch and I'll connect with you as well.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Course creators, say goodbye to intimidating software and eliminate multiple subscriptions and say hello to Backbone. Backbone helps course creators thrive with their all-in-one, easy-to-use sales and marketing platform. Backbone gives you all your automation in one place to capture, nurture, and turn more leads into customers. With Backbone, you get unlimited courses, membership sites, funnels, landing pages, surveys, and forms with our easy-to-use drag-and-drop features. That's not all. Backbone provides a full CRM and pipeline management, two-way SMS, workflow automations, call tracking, full analytics, built-in AI, 24/7 support, and so much more. Stop paying for multiple tools and put more money in your pocket with Backbone. Just go to backbonelms.io now to get your free 14-day trial. Backbone supports letthemlive.org to help defend the defenseless by donating 5% of each subscription every month. Jump over to backbonelms.io now to start your free trial today.